Good afternoon, everyone, and good night, depending on where you are on the world, and welcome to the last match reaction that we are going to be having for 2019. Barcelona currently just played their last game against Deportivo Alaves, a 4-1 victory that saw Luis Suarez being directly involved in every single goal. The first one of those being a goal in the 15th minute by Antoine Griezmann, followed up by a banger before the end of the first half from Arturo Vidal. A classic yet magisterial strike from Lionel Messi from the edge of the box, and then ending up in a penalty that Luis Suarez put home. A good watch to send all Barcelona fans happy, but still a little bit worried of things that might come in 2020. This shall be the perfect chance for all our Barcelona squad, players, manager, board to really think about what we want to see next year, because from what I can say, this very first half of the season is just been more of the same. The very first point that I think we should go over is the selection of certain players for this game and the exclusion therefore of others. I'm going to be talking specifically about that midfield. I'm going to be making a video more in depth into this situation, but I gotta say that seeing Arturo Vidal and Carles Aleñá play together in this game was such a breath of fresh air. Honestly, we saw two very vertical midfielders. Not much more of that horizontal passing that we see with Rakitic, and not directly but rather consequentially from someone like Frankie de Jong when he doesn't find space in front of him. I think that just having two very mobile players like we saw today just gave Barcelona a much bigger dimension when it came attacking forwards, and that is something that completely we lacked against Real Madrid. We didn't have the capabilities to get past them one-on-one, and like if you saw our previous video where I mentioned directly breaking down the statements from Frankie de Jong after that game, that was exactly what all the players were feeling in the field, that Barcelona didn't have any sort of skill to get past that flooded midfield that Zidane had set up. So Carles Aleñá being on the bench, Arturo Vidal being on the bench might not be the best option. Perhaps these are two players that entering 2020 should be making their start alongside Frankie. Throwing some stats here and there, I think it's worth mentioning that Carles Aleñá is the player with the most possession in today's game, the player from Barcelona that had the ball the most. 7.8% he had of the entire team. The closest second being Ser Roberto with 7.7. So Aleñá was literally making Barcelona tick. Furthermore, when we take a look at the 11 successful dribbles that happened during this game, guess what? 8 of them were to Lionel Messi, but then the others were to Arturo Vidal. Vidal, we always question him that, oh, he's not the Barcelona profile. And in some reason, I actually do like that he's not the normal archetype Barcelona midfielder, but he's still always there with individual skill that sometimes he just doesn't get to show off. And I think that Vidal this year has implemented, I'm not gonna say a lot more to his game, but definitely he's trying to show that to the crowd, to Valverde, that he has a space here and that he wanna take that space. The next big point that I want to make is Antoine Griezmann, because at the start of the year, you already know that I was one of the first ones to criticize him because I thought his attitude wasn't the best. But in retrospect, I must apologize because making early assumptions. I think that Griezmann is getting to his own, and hopefully by 2020, he will become a very big mark for Barcelona. Griezmann right now has already scored more goals than Dembélé last season, and even more than Neymar at his first year. He has currently 7 goals and 4 assists, 6 goals in La Liga and 4 assists in La Liga. So you can say that in 16 games already, he has been involved in 10 different goals. And that's overall very good. It's not the best, it's not, like earth-shattering, but it's still very, very positive. The only thing that I believe Griezmann is lacking is a little bit still of that understanding, because if we compare Griezmann's involvement to all of the other players in the field, there's still a long way to go. Excluding the substitutes Ter Stegen and Luis Suarez, all of our players had over 80 touches in this game. Antoine Griezmann being not necessarily a natural 9, but even still having the capabilities to drop down a little bit deeper, I would like to see him a little bit more involved in the build-up play, because he only had 51 touches. It's a part of his game that's gonna come, and if Atletico Madrid, he always had a lot more involvement. I'm just wanting to see that final pinnacle, creme de la creme, Antoine Griezmann. And the last mention that I want to make realistically has to go to Lionel Messi. We only have 3 spots per match review, and Luis Suarez, even though you had 3 assists, 1 goal, you're gonna need to make way for your BFF, because Messi scored his 50th goal of the year, guys, of the year, making it the 9th time he has achieved that. That is absolutely just outstanding. That is simply a god walking amongst men. Lionel Messi, he deserves every single praise, every single minute that we get to watch him. We should be paying tax, honestly, because this man is just a joy to watch. So if you excuse me now, I'm gonna head back to the game itself, and we're gonna be talking about what I saw in this game. I gotta say that Barcelona started with the right front foot. You know, they had that kind of motivation to show, to give back to the fans, because they gave us absolutely nothing in El Clásico. And of course, Deportivo Alaves are not Real Madrid, and perhaps the kind of victory over them won't feel as sweet as it would have been against Los Merengues, no pun intended. But thankfully, it paid off for the very first, 20 minutes of the game. Barcelona seemed to have the front foot during the entire first half, I must say, until, well, the last play where Luis Suarez, being once again the provider, found Arturo Vidal, el chileno, and he manages to blast it into the back of the net, making it 2-0 just seconds before the final whistle. Barca were dominant. Barca were kind of the team in front. They were leading the football. They were leading the press. It looked like a very serious first half. And I must say that, unfortunately, like always, this year, and hopefully we change that by 2020, the second half wasn't so serious after that. We were just a little bit too full of ourselves. The start was completely pathetic. In 20 minutes, Deportivo Alaves had more shots than Barcelona. So yeah, you make what you want from that. And well, they equalized through an amazing ball into Pere Pons into the box. I think that Carles Aleñá was at fault a little bit there, because it was his man. He needed to track that runner, and he didn't. He immediately reacted and realized that, putting his head down and acknowledging that it was his error, his mistake. So kudos to him, because like I always say, it takes a brave man to acknowledge when you did wrong. And I think that particularly this won't help him when it comes to kind of being selected for the next game. And I think this is where Valverde is being a little bit too harsh. Valverde, of course, is always going to prioritize that kind of veteran player, that guy who always have the experience and can kind of not make those little mistakes here and there. But guess what, Valverde? Carles Aleñá gives you a lot more going forward. He gives you a lot more all around in his game than all of the most other midfielders we've seen this season. And if he's going to make those mistakes, as a Barcelona fan, I can take it, and you should take it as well, because he's young and he will learn to avoid doing those sort of childish kind of mistakes. So yeah, overall, there's much more if we keep him in the side rather than letting him rot on the bench. I must say that we need to be thankful to Messi, because just when the tides were turning, he showed up again. And I don't know what would have happened if he didn't, because Alaves were getting back into it. We're talking about a team that hasn't won his last 6 games away from home, and at the Camp Nou, probably the most intimidating stadium La Liga has to offer, the biggest certainly. They almost capitalized on their comeback. So hopefully we can avoid that, and hopefully we can learn that from kind of next year. And the last thing that I want to say is that for me, that wouldn't have been a penalty. I wouldn't have called it. I think it was literally just too harsh. What in the world could have Aguirregabiria literally done in that occasion? There was absolutely nothing he could have done. It was just way too harsh. Suarez, I bet, didn't even think that it was gonna be a penalty. So yeah, like literally that was too harsh for me. I wouldn't have given it. So with all of this, guys, culés, I gotta say that we need to enjoy our holidays. We need to take a break from Barca and really also understand that, once again, this game shows that hating on Valverde is really easy, and most of the time it's a joint effort. There are some players here, but we just don't want to acknowledge that they can ever do any wrong, because they've given us so much in the past. But people, this is gonna sound so philosophical, people change in a way, players do as well, and it's time to realize that if it was me, for instance, there will be so many changes I would make in the January transfer window. But guess what? We will be stuck with this squad until the end of the season. So with that, guys, I'm gonna sign off. See you in the next one. Take care. Ciao.